am KB with Nerdophiles. How are you?
I'm not too bad. I'm not too bad. How you doing?
I am doing well. All right. So, this show tackles cultural appropriation, racism, time travel, music, mayhem, sexism, and really so much more, but through the lens of comedy. So, I know you created this show a while ago. So, how did you even kind of come up with the idea for this show? And what other comedians or other comedic TV shows inspired you?
Okay, so question number one, it's lots of elements basically. I wish it was like a really like simple, seamless thing, but I'll try and piece it all together. So one element was I was learning how to play the trumpet at the time for random reasons. I don't know why. Um, and I thought, oh, how cool would it be to write a show about a jazz band? Also, at the time in Britain, there was a lot of gang shows like the In-Betweeners and Drifters and things like that. And I thought, oh, wouldn't it be cool to do a gang show, but with an all-black cast? So I thought, okay, all black jazz band, slam those together. And then I kind of, all my comedy, I always want to push boundaries and stuff. So I was like, oh, maybe if I set back in time, but they time traveled back in time, so they had to kind of deal with like the racism of the time of the 1920s, but they've got like the foresight, the future. And so it was just like an amalgamation of like different things just kind of slammed together. And that's how Timewasters was born. It's weird. It's such a weird. I should come up with a better answer, but that's genuinely how it kind of came about. And then question number two, what inspired me? I mean, looking at the show, I think so many different things. I mean, growing up, a lot of the shows that I watched, a lot of them were American shows. So shows like I loved, Fresh Prince and Sister Sister and Keenan and Kel and all of those things. So I love those shows with like young people acting crazy and messing about. And then also, I loved movies like Back to the Future and things like that. So I think all of those things kind of influence this show, and I think I think it kind of shows within it, I think.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned you were learning how to play the trumpet, which was probably like the first key to the puzzle to putting this together. And obviously, music plays a dynamic role, and it's almost like its own character, since the quartet is traveling back in time as a jazz band. So they are actually able to share some of like our time period's classics with the people of the 1920s. I heard some Outkast, I heard some Amy Winehouse. So, how did you select the songs that would be used for the jazz band to play in the show?
Um, it was I wanted songs which were that kind of everyone knew, and it almost like transcends the genre. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's why I picked those certain songs. I definitely wanted them to be, the majority of songs that they play, the vast majority of them are black artists. But I wanted I wanted those songs where you could go into any club. Do you know what I mean? And they'd probably chuck on that song. And I wanted to, because I wanted this show to kind of like play to a big audience. You know what I mean? Because even though it's like an all black jazz band, it's a comedy first and foremost, and so I wanted it to play to everyone. So I wanted when they played that song, everyone to kind of go, "Oh, I know that song," and so yeah, and they're all songs that I think I love or play on my my iPhone at some point. So yeah, that's how I picked them.
Absolutely. And so, something also, every episode is connected by the theme of time travel, and also the theme of an angry fiance, kind of coming after the man who's left with his fiance. But I still feel like each episode is uniquely different. And what really kind of stands out is it seems at times that most of the characters aren't really acting at all. So, how did you kind of gather the actors for this show and play on screen a little bit, and maybe even in the writer's room a little bit, kind of with their own personal quirks?
Um, it's so lovely that you said that, because I think that's some of the loveliest feedback I get is about our dynamic, which is really lovely. And I think when it came to casting people, it was tricky because a lot of people came into the room, and there was so many great people, and I wanted to make sure we got the not only the funniest people but the chemistry just right. And funnily enough, when before we got the green light, the head of the channel said to me, "Oh, we did a read through it," and she said, "Oh, it's been amazing that you were able to cast all your friends." And I was like, "I don't know these people," and it's because I didn't, but I think everyone who came into the room brought something, and really they brought something into the room, and it really shone through. And when we all got together, we just all naturally formed together. And I wish I could say it was all in the writing, but I don't think it was. I think a lot everyone kind of brought something to the character, and I think there was a real excitement in the room. Everyone that kind of came in, because there was never a show like this in Britain. It's very rare to kind of get black people in period pieces, but to have like an all black period show, which is also a comedy and a gang show, which were, you know, all of those elements were so exciting. So I think when people came into the room, they brought that excitement with them. They really wanted to be part of this project. And so when they were all cast, it was theirs. It was part of theirs, and we formed a friendship, and I think that kind of comes across on screen. So I'm so pleased that you said that.
Yes, yes. Okay. And so, lastly, my question is, if you personally could travel back to any time period, not necessarily the 1920s, which one would it be and why?
It's a hard one. I mean, I, there's a side of me that thinks that I should go way back to kind of like discover like amazing things, and like find out like some really amazing like secret histories and stuff. But there's also a part of me that just kind of wants to kind of go back to the 90s. Do you know what I mean? Because
Yes.
I love the fashion. The music was incredible. I don't think you're going to get better than 90s R&B. So there's something about just kind of going back just a couple of decades and just hanging out there again, and maybe like redoing a few faux pas that may have took place in my life as well. So I'm gonna go 1990s.
Listen, I'm not mad. There is something magical about the 90s. And I kind of feel like I was this age. I wish I was this age in the 90s. So would have had a lot more fun.
Yeah.
But I still enjoyed my time, even in my youth. In the 90s as well. So I am not mad at it. Well, thank you so, so much for Time Wasters. And thank you so much for chatting with Nerdophiles. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.